me off. Darkness to know, darkness to know. Alright. Turn on the Bluetooth, yeah. You see a gravy smaddy? Alright, see there? So, we could start it off right there, so ladies and gentlemen.
Tomorrow would benefit from that information for that informed analysis. Thank you.
Then you know, say, this, what's your name, Favor Williams? After our speech the other day, first time she talked for how long and address certain things with the spending, so it was interesting what Mark Golden had to contribute. I want to listen to this very, very carefully, you know, because I even didn't know them something, and if me never know somebody else, never know neither, no. You know, I realize.
Speaker, my understanding is that this is a motion.
Yeah, it is. And next, the opposition leader, and after that, the member from Portland Eastern. And then.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My understanding is that this is a motion.
Yeah, it is.
And we're debating a motion.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Minister, it really would have been helpful if you had circulated a copy of your presentation to us, because there is a lot of detail and important information in it, and it's much easier to follow and respond to that if we have it in writing. So I'm hoping that that will be done. Minister, first of all, when we're discussing the disaster risk financing framework, I think it's important to recognize the work of others who helped to put that in place. In particular, I want to acknowledge the work, the seminal work that was done by then Minister of Finance, Dr. Omar Davies, in the development of the CRIF as a Caribbean model, a regional model of parametric insurance, which has, we have been able to benefit on this occasion by some over 90 million US dollars. So I think it's important, and I want to put that on the record of the House, because sometimes those contributions tend to be overlooked. Madam Speaker, we have a fiscal policy paper here, which I look forward to reading, but just on a quick glance at the content of it in relation to the public debt stock, clearly it was prepared in advance of what was announced yesterday by the multilaterals and that very large financing package which Jamaica is being offered of 6.7 billion US dollars. The projections in the fiscal policy paper, therefore, I assume, are predicated on the state of things which existed before that financing became available. And so I join and endorse what the shadow spokesman for finance has said as to the need to see updated projections around those debt to GDP numbers, and indeed our growth numbers, given the additional resources that will be taken on board to finance the recovery. Madam Speaker, you haven't mentioned anything about amending the Financial Administration and Audit Act so as to push back the target date for the debt to GDP ratio to be achieved. The projections you have here indicate that it will not be achieved by the target date of 2028 March, which we understand. But suspending the fiscal rule is one thing, and moving the target date for achieving the desired ceiling on debt is another thing. So you need to tell us when you plan to deal with that. Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that the report that the PIOJ and the Fiscal Commissioner, I believe it is, has prepared, which is a basis for the order that you are seeking to bring here for approval to suspend the fiscal rules, be made available to us so that we can understand the background of this request. Obviously, we're aware in general terms of the background because we are fully aware of the mayhem caused. But it would be good to see the technical analysis and the supporting analysis that has taken place by those persons entrusted by our law for the recommendation that the necessary parameters have been met to justify a suspension of the fiscal rules. And I hope in the interest of transparency and good governance that we will see those documents. Madam Speaker, as I have indicated earlier, we are going into a new era where Jamaica has this massive recovery to finance and is taking on a huge financing package to do this. That financing package is largely debt financing, preponderantly so. The Prime Minister indicated that there are shovel-ready projects, or at least approved projects, in the pipeline that private sector investors can get behind, and that would be supported by the bodies, the private sector financing bodies that are affiliated with the World Bank and I think the IDB. And that's fine, but the actual investors who are going to take the risk of making those investments have to be identified. And that is why I'm saying that 2.4 billion is not assured. And we want to hear more about what projects and what investors are going to be coming to the table to undertake those projects and make sure that that component of the 6.7 billion is in fact real. So, Madam Speaker, there's a lot that remains to be explained to us. We don't know any of the terms of this proposed borrowing, the interest rates, the tenures of the loans, any moratoria on interest and principal. From the numbers that were tabled today in the supplementary budget, I can see that certain interest expenses are not going to be incurred. So I assume that means that those multilateral lenders have agreed to suspend the obligation to pay during this period. I'd like to know for how long that suspension is going to last. I don't think that Jamaica has natural disaster clauses in any of our borrowings. I'm not aware of that. That has been pioneered by Barbados in their bond offerings, and I believe Grenada also took advantage of that, that where an event of a calamity of this nature caused by some natural disaster takes place, there's a period of suspension of debt payments for the duration of the effect of the disaster on an objective basis. And of course, that releases significant cash flow to help fund the country through that period. I don't think we have that formally in our, certainly in our bond documentation. I don't know whether there are any public sector borrowings from multilaterals that have it, but even if there aren't, from what I'm seeing in the supplementary estimates, the multilaterals have agreed to suspend some of their payments because we're seeing savings on interest payments in the supplementary budget from the multilaterals. Perhaps you could tell us a bit more about that as well. So, Madam Speaker, I look forward to more information on this proposed order to suspend the fiscal rules in the interest of transparency and good governance. Thank you.
In a short period of time. Yeah, man, we have real stand today that Mark Golding had to school favor on a bill brought to the Parliament. They bring the fiscal order to relax the fiscal order and come with the wrong date, one of the most critical things. So we want to listen to Mark Golding as school favor Williams.
The main issue I want to say about the order is this. The duration of the order, Minister, is that it expires, it's for a period which commenced on the date Melissa hit, October 20th, 2025, and it terminates on March 31 next year. So it's a very short period that's covered by this order. And when I look at the provision in the law, it says that the initial period during which compliance with the requirements referred to in subsections 1A and B, which are the contraction of the economy by more than 1.5% of GDP.
Ivan, what's up?
So the initial period during which compliance with those requirements may be suspended shall terminate at the end of the financial year following. So to my mind, you're selling yourself short, Mister, by having it end in the financial year that we are in and that the calamity occurred. Because it's supposed to be, it should terminate at the end of the financial year following the calamity. This is important because the effects of this are likely to impact the upcoming fiscal year.
There is an error in the order. It should be March 31st, 2027, as rightly pointed out by the leader of the opposition. So, Madam Speaker, we will... So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, we ask for 5 minutes recess so that we can reprint order and have the minister sign it. Suspension for 5 minutes, Madam Speaker.
House, the question, no, members. The question is that the House be suspended for 5 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. That is, members, to facilitate the adjustment of the order.
So, when we get to understand from that, when we never did know, so basically because of the hurricane, right? You have some suspension of
To the restoration of essential services.
you have some suspension of what you call now interest rates with the loan them. You understand? So they will give you them have a grace period of up to a year because of the storm, right? What happened is that the JLP in the document that them put out did not exercise the full length of the grace period, which would release more money, which we need. And so Mark Golden had to point out to Fayeval say, well, I think you sell yourself short, because right now you could have just get this thing to the next fiscal year, and then there's a part of it where say if it's not sufficient after the next fiscal year, which the next fiscal year would start in April 1st going into 2027, April 1st, the other fiscal year would have started. So them could have get that 1 year grace period there. And then afterwards, there's a second option of it come like a contract where you sign as a basketball player. And then if I have a 4-year contract, and then after 3 years, you can decide whether or not you want to go somewhere else or you want to stay with the team and take on a 1 year option there where you have. So you have an automatic 1 year contract, 1 year grace period, and then you have an optional one where you, the borrower, can take. I mean, I try to break it down so anybody can understand what the man has said, because of that me understand. So Fayeval, in her infinite wisdom, are locked there of write the document and never utilize that 2 year period, because after 2007, April 1st, them can take the option again to go to 2028, After 2027, April 1st, they can use one next year again. But Fayeval was going to end theirs on March 31st of 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, what can go so? And then now, if you see a face and take shame out of them eye, the man them wisely say, there was an error on there, And then them go correct the error 5 minutes after, and then come back and give the one where Mark Golden was saying. And you see, when it comes to situations in the parliament, I just because of pride and ego, the man they know say Mark Golden now and bright smart and know him at about my businessman, and see if they just listen to him and consider some of the things them I say and implement them, then we're in a better standing than the people them who not vex with them right now. Because even with the committee, Zeno the man decides say him say, yo, make we use everybody. I see if I try to save Andrew Honest, from being ridiculed by everybody say yo, they might thief the money, because people are gonna feel away there anyway. So what you do? You take most of the responsibility out of your hand or share the responsibility by bringing some people where a part of the whole economy, the NGOs them and all them people, right? The private sector, everybody. Get them on board for the relief, the whole relief and recovery strategy and planning and everything and execution. That the way they know everything accounted for, all of the money them accounted for, all of the resources them accounted for, and nobody can point and say you do nothing. You feel me I deal with? But no, they want to do it for them way. And then when you look on that now, people look on them like, yo, so why you wouldn't want to put a system in place where you cannot be blamed in any way now? Then can't point a finger upon you specifically say you did anything wrong and nefarious. Why? A pride and ego, and then you have to look on the fact say, them want to skullduggery government, so you know what that go. You feel me I deal with? But more have to touch on something else, Zine. Because this Senator Bridge in the next clip, boy, I tell her, this I'm going to beat and teach. All I know people, I want to listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon again, colleagues.
Hold on there.
Thank you.
What's your name again? I want son.
Kevin.
I think I the son of Mr.
Yes, of course.
Please.
Senator Hill.
The farmer.
Remove your...
I believe him are the farmer. Him are the farmer's son or the farmer Minister of Finance. No, Minister of Health. The one where they get fired because of the dead baby them at the hospital. I feel him son this.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you.
Listen to this. For you hear him say, I will get the full context of it. You see me? Oh, you want this?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon again, colleagues. So before we can responsibly debate the suspension of any aspect of our fiscal rules, which is what we're here to discuss, it's not routine. All
right, so we want to hear what the debate is about. This was yesterday now. The suspension of the fiscal rules. So the man are going to make sure say them understand where the whole rules come from anyway. What caused this rule to be developed, right? Which is very important because them people have revisionist history. They like to delete parts of the history to make themselves look good. So listen to what I say.
Applied earlier. We have to first, I think, be reminded about why the fiscal rules exist in the first place.
Exactly.
Right? They're not technical ornaments. They're legal guardrails that protect our country's finances from political convenience. Right?
You hear that? The fiscal rules are legislative guardrails that protect our country's finances from government convenience. Convenience like deciding not to pass the IMF test them, where the IMF did give it, the JLP when Bruce them did it. Convenience, you know. We not about to work with phone agreement, man. We just have to do one thing. And then IMF lock we out. And the World Bank lock we out. And nobody in the financial world globally now deal with it. We can't get no money for borrow. And them do that. So what? The PMP had to do what? Listen.
They ensure that discipline is not left to the goodwill of any administration. Right? But
I said earlier today on my live, I said anybody can one brother did a challenge me in the comment section on TikTok and I said, Bridget, if the UIC was the blurred not party we are on Jamaica, the fiscal rules were there, then would have to follow the same way a law, a legislation, then can't break it. So when they hear them jump up and talk about, oh, we're the government that are fiscally disciplined. Nah, be. Yeah, the government, you have to follow the fiscal rules like any other government. You're not special because of that. You're not special because the debt to GDP gone down. And you is the cause or the reason for that. You get one set of rules where you have to abide and that is it and it done. So don't make them deceive you. Learn, read, or listen to the people that actually read. And then read again. Study.
Goodwill of any administration.
Don't make them fool you.
But it's required by law on behalf of the people of Jamaica.
Exactly.
And the truth is that when any country's finances are unstable, it's not the financial markets that suffer first. It's the people. It's the people who have to wait for their schools to be upgraded. It's the people who have to wait for their hospitals to be at a basic level of acceptability. It's the people who have to drive on roads that remain unrepaired. Our citizens are the ones who feel the strain of daily life when the finances of the country are unstable. Therefore, fiscal rules are not established to restrain ambition, but they're established to protect opportunities for our workers and our families and our communities. Right? So Jamaica didn't arrive at the fiscal stability that we claim by accident. It came out of the legislative work that underlines the discussion that we're having here. And it came during a very difficult period in our history.
Exactly. Very difficult period.
Our debt burden was at its worst. And when we are in the wake of a failed engagement with the IMF. Right?
Thank you very much. You hear that? Failed engagement.
The 2011 to 2016 period, under the administration of the most honorable Portia Simpson Miller, the architecture of our fiscal rules was largely designed and negotiated and enacted.
Nobody can argue that.
On March 21st, 2014, the Senate passed the legislation that embedded these rules into two core statutes, the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act and the Financial Administration and Audit Act.
Play that back.
Negotiated and enacted. Period, under the administration of the most honorable Portia Simpson Miller, that the architecture of our fiscal rules was largely designed and negotiated and enacted. In fact, On March 21st, 2014, the Senate passed the legislation that embedded these rules into two core statutes, the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act and the Financial Administration and Audit Act.
Let me play that back again. We can look that up. Listen to him say.
And enacted. In fact, on March 21st, 2014, the Senate passed the legislation that embedded these rules into two core statutes, the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act and the Financial Administration and Audit Act.
All right.
In
reference
opening the debate
2014
at that time, the then Minister of Justice, Senator the Honorable Mark Golding, as he was at that time, offered words that are worth repeating today.
Listen to the words.
He said Jamaicans want a solution that will stand the test of time. Right? Our debt must be brought down to sustainable levels and must put in place arrangements to ensure that we don't allow ourselves to get back into that situation again.
Yes.
If the country takes this stand for permanent sound fiscal management, we're purchasing a solid insurance policy for our nation's future. Now, there's been a lot said about insurance policies recently, but this insurance policy that we're discussing here today, I think, is what has compelled successive governments to stay on a path of discipline. Right? It was not choice, it was legislative. Right?
It needs to be said, they didn't have any choice. I tell you, them not have no choice but to do it. If they did ever break the law, they're in a trouble instantly. They would get called out instantly. Disgrace. They couldn't stand on no political ground until nobody said them have any them responsible. Them is a responsible government. And you broke the rules them of the financial engagement. Them have to follow them, ladies and gentlemen. And that may I try to tell you. They were forced. It come like Father God goes to Babs and left in one place and put one fiery wall and said, don't pass it, else you go burn. Try passing it, you don't get burned, man. So you have to stay put over there, so that the restriction that the act and the law actually put on them, they never have no choice. And that may I try to show you. So we know anybody come to with this argument about fiscal prudence and fiscal discipline, only just make them know say 2014 that right in a law by Portia Simpson Miller and Mark Jefferson Golding as a legislator was extremely pivotal in crafting that piece of legislation. He was at the core and the center of that at the time. Don't let them fool you.
There are a number of reasons, right, why this is of critical importance, right? And this particular matter is one of the main reasons why when Jamaica entered into recent global shocks like the pandemic and now the unfortunate occurrence of Hurricane Melissa, we have been in a stronger position. Right? It's precisely because the fiscal rule worked why we can today contemplate a suspension of the rule in response to a national emergency. But any decision to activate the escape clause must be guided by some seriousness, the same seriousness that went into putting the rule in place to begin with. Any escape must be temporary, it must be transparent, and it must be firmly tethered in the goal of protecting our people, which is what brought us to the fiscal rule in the first place. Because without that, we're going to be sacrificing the tomorrow of the people of Jamaica. Exactly. Mr. President, let me state at the outset and reiterate what has been said, that the proposal that is before us today is both appropriate and necessary. So there's no contention there. Hurricane Melissa was not merely a severe weather incident. It was a national disaster of historic proportions, and that is clear for everyone to see. It impacted lives and continues to impact lives, homes, infrastructure, productive capability, and there leaves no question that we need flexibility to rebuild. That's not in question. The opposition, therefore, has no objection at all to the temporary suspension of aspects of the fiscal rules. We also welcome as well the correction of the order that was tabled earlier this week in the House of Representatives to ensure that the suspension period was not shorter than the law allows for. Right? That was an important intervention. Right? And it ensures that the people of Jamaica will receive the full fiscal space that the legislation provides to allow us to recover. Right? What deserves focus today as we debate this, Mr. President, is not whether the suspension is justified, but rather focus on the context in which the suspension is being pursued. Mr. President, the suspension before us is triggered because we're not going to be able to meet the targets that we had set out with respect to debt to GDP, right? And now we need some additional time to do so. And this is the second time since this law has been in force that we've had an extraordinary event that has necessitated us contemplating a suspension. However, the circumstances today are very different than those that existed when we suspended the fiscal rules during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then the problem was an expected collapse in revenue and an expected increase in expenses associated with the need for additional social and health expenditure. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. When the economy eventually reopened, the expectation was that we would return to consolidation, and that we did. Though challenging, it really depended on a restoration of the economic activity. That's not the situation that we have today. Hurricane Melissa didn't only interrupt income, right? It destroyed capital. It's wiped out housing, roads, utilities, agricultural assets, equipment, community infrastructure. Families have not only lost their earnings, but they've lost their physical means of earning. Right? And that wasn't a primary feature in the pandemic period. Farmers didn't just lose their crops. They've lost everything that enables their livelihood. Right? Small businesses didn't just lose customers, right, by virtue of shutdowns. They have lost stock, building, power, equipment. A nation cannot recover those losses by just waiting for the economy to restart, right? We have to rebuild them. So this means that the path to recovery will require extreme steps. And we've discussed some of those steps, right? It will require borrowing, which is a feature of this suspension period. Not just to stabilize livelihoods, but to replace the very assets that feed these livelihoods. So Jamaica will need to take on significant financing, and we've heard of some of it so far, but that will very likely not be the extent of it, in order to reconstruct the foundations of economic life. The distinction that I'm making here matters, Mr. President, because it means that the economic assumptions that enabled a swift return to discipline after COVID-19, a V-shaped return to discipline. It won't automatically apply now.
No.
The journey back to fiscal prudence will depend on conditions that are materially different. There will need to be new growth dynamics in our economy to accompany the reconstruction. We will have a test of our foreign exchange dynamics, unlike anything that we've seen before.
So basically, we must say, ladies and gentlemen, we had the luck of having the fiscal discipline, but now that they're going to be relaxed, growing the economy faster is going to be even more pivotal in having us move faster enough to get a V shape where the economy are going to go upwards, because right now the economy flatline, you know. The economy flatline. This is a disaster, flatline. When it comes to foreign exchange, you notice the dollar go up, the Bank of Jamaica do everything they can in a Jesus name to keep it down from past 161. But it still a go up. You understand what I say? So, I mean, them have to find one way to grow the economy fast, and them can just think about tourism, because some of the hotels they locked down. So what them are going to do? They have to look outside of the box. They have to get creative. You feel me I deal with? I don't know, the entertainment industry, agriculture, and different forms of agriculture. Right now, they are look on, you know, what they call it, hydroponics. Where they have the shit, they call it something there. The pipes them are run parallel to one another, going up and then going down, and you look hole them in there and the different crops them where them grow. And it work. I mean, in your backyard they can have that. You feel me? I say so. When I tell people if you do some research and if them have a space, then can take on something like that in their own backyard, so you can actually feed yourself and sell too and make some money. You understand what I say? So you can help to boost up the economy. Who knows, you can start export some things if you get intentional with where you farm and them something there. You feel what I say? These are the time for people to get innovative. Like right now, it's a great opportunity because of the actual need for things. Whatever is needed, if you can supply it, that are going to help you to become a millionaire faster. You understand? Because the market wide open. You feel me? I deal with? So if you have the money to invest and can deal with certain things, I know say yo, book right now, everything up, brother. Everything. All of the food group them up in the market. I be import them and import stuff. So that means that we importation will get high and we not make no money because we not export nothing. And then the tourism in, sector suffer. We are borrow all this money, we have to pay back interest pan. It is the perfect ball for the whole economy flatline. But if we do the right thing them, that the man must say, you have to do the right things them for the economy in a flatline. And them just have to be creative and know what to do. And them have to take them pride out of it. You understand what I say? And actually unite and devise plan together with the opposition. Really strong and talk about this thing. You see me I say, because at the end of the day, all we are Jamaican and everybody are going to suffer. And not just PNP are going to suffer. Everybody's going to suffer. You see, JLP people always get mashed up down some PNP people also. You don't have to cut out them messing there, brother. That me I tell you, it not work out. It not work out. I basically, the rich people, them alright, you know, to an extent, you know. I poor people, they ever suffer, you know. And when they are fighting one another about green and orange, you know, so now I hear that. You need to wake up. Wake up! Okay? That is it. Let's hear more.
Seen before. The pace at which capital can actually be absorbed into the economy and projects is going to be tested, right? And we've been having some challenges with that. I'll get to that. And credible debt sustainability expectations will need to be rebuilt. So while the suspension is justified, it has to be managed with the people of Jamaica at the center of this decision. It can't be about just technical expertise and looking at numbers on a page and going through in a routine fashion, right? The purpose of this flexibility is not to comfort our markets. It's to go as far as something more basic. It's to restore the dignity and productivity and security of Jamaicans whose lives have been upended by this crisis.
True.
Now,
Wagwan Desin,
Mr. President,
Philippa, what's up?
The fiscal space is not an end to itself. Our work doesn't stop here. It's a tool to help us to rebuild the lives of people. And that's exactly why it needs to be used in a very careful, transparent way, and there needs to be a clear plan for how we return to discipline
Curiosity
once the crisis is further in our wake, right? So I have a couple of points. The first thing is, let's talk about the sufficiency of the recovery financing. Right? So, Mr. President, having accepted that the suspension is justified, we now have to examine what resources we have to fuel the recovery, right, and to meet the scale of the crisis that we're facing as a country. So a lot has been said about the $6.7 billion financing package. It actually came up earlier today, right? Good, all right. Possibly. The height has its advantages and disadvantages, right? Now, a lot has been said about the 6.7 billion, right? And I won't rehash what it's about, except to say that it's important that the country deserves clarity on what the $6.7 billion actually represents. Now, my understanding from what has been shared publicly is that only $3.6 billion of this package is new and secured thus far. There's $662 million, which we always knew existed in liquidity from the disaster insurance proceeds and the contingent credit access and the domestic resources. But the remainder of $2.4 billion, follow me now, right, is not financing that has been secured or committed. but rather it's private capital that will need to be mobilized, and it's contingent on Jamaica's ability to present bankable and competitive projects. Right? So we've secured the debt, but we effectively will have to compete for the rest, right? And Mr. President, I don't want you to misunderstand me, right? While that is a source of optimism, even if it is counted in the total sum, there is still a shortfall relative to all the estimates that I've seen with respect to actual damage. And then when we contemplate the concept of rebuilding or replacing better, that could prospectively cause an increase even relative to that damage. And then when we think about the output that's been lost during this period, there is a deficit with respect to what the country will need to build back better, right? So, in other words, while this international support that has been touted is welcome, one, only a portion of it is secure and guaranteed. And there is a substantial amount left to be filled, right? So I have a couple of questions associated with this. The first is, what has been contemplated thus far refilling the gap, the clear gap that exists between the funding identified and the funding needed, right? The second question is, with respect to the sum that we will need to compete for, we will need to present projects for, where are those projects? Now, I've heard that there are a list of national projects and the intention is to draw from that portfolio of projects. But again, my understanding from the limited information that has been shared is that this funding will be targeted specifically towards recovery projects. Right? And you know, the challenge that I have, Mr. President, is surrounding two things. One is, what's the basis of eligibility under the financing framework? How are we going to transparently prioritize the projects to be pursued in relation to this money? Right? How are we going to ensure that the essential recovery projects, not any pre-existing initiatives that are unrelated, are focused with respect to this funding opportunity? The third question is, what's the plan that the government has to present bankable projects at the required scale to actually access this money? And the reason I ask is that they're unrelated in relation to this money. How are we going to ensure that the essential recovery projects, not any pre-existing initiatives that are unrelated, are focused with respect to this funding opportunity? The third question is, what's the plan that the government has to present bankable projects at the required scale to actually access this money? And the reason I ask is that we have had a challenge as a country credibly accessing foreign direct investments over the last decade or so, right? And now we are being asked to mobilize a significant amount of external financing through this 2.4 billion, private sector-led financing in effect, at a scale that we've never been able to successfully do it before. Right? This is in the context as well, Mr. President, of the government having repeatedly underspent its own capital budget. For the last 2 consecutive years, the state has struggled to...
I know, say the same man go going the capital budget underspending. I know, no.
Mobilize domestic development spending that was already appropriated. So if we're not able to execute on our own capital projects, using our own money, right? If we haven't been able to sort that out, how are we going to execute with international projects, financing structures that require much more complexity and delivery? My concern, Mr. President, is that this 2.4 billion becomes a concept, it becomes a white elephant. It's available in theory, but inaccessible in practice.
Mighty God.
1 minute, Senator Ferguson. Senator Morgan.
How did I miss this?
I have exhibited forbearance. A point of order, Mr. President. Resume a seat.
Senator Ferguson, can I have a seat?
Mr. President, a number of things are happening. The senator is giving the public the impression, essentially, that
I can deal with it in a Senator Brown.
Mr. President.
Senator Brown, hold on, please. Senator Brown, just relax, the man.
Oh, yes, sir.
So he's going to go on longer now.
For those who did not hear at the first go around or at the first time of asking, I am rising on a point of order, Mr.
What is the point of order?
The senator opposite is essentially misleading the Senate and indeed the Jamaican people. The 2.4 billion United States dollars that is referenced by the senator allow the submission and the president makes the ruling, one president at a time. Yeah?
Senator Morgan, address me now, please.
Very well, Mr. President.
Okay, I'm making it like I am
The
president.
2.4 billion United States dollars that is being referenced by the senator opposite is a quantum of funds in an envelope that has essentially been pledged to Jamaica.
Okay, hold on. That is what the basis of your point of order.
That is correct. He's suggesting that these sums are nebulous.
Hear what I'm telling you now. Deal with that in your contribution, because Senator Brown, relax now, man. Just deal with that in your contribution and let the member continue. Okay, Senator Brown, did I deal with it?
At least the speaker deal with it right away. Leave it sit down, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for re-articulating the point that I made before.
Exactly.
Pledge to do what?
Exactly.
Right? Pledge to do what?
Exactly.
Mr. President,
you see, you not say nothing wrong, you know. The money there in an envelope, you pledge to do something. But if you can execute, you're not going to get to access the pledge. So it might become this white elephant we might talk about, because if the man them can't spend simply the capital budget and underspend, and look how much things they have to deal with. If them can't spend the capital budget, a bigger budget of to deal with massive projects. Them never demonstrate the capacity to do that over the last 10 years. They have never done it, not even with the normal capital budget. So it's a logical question the youth are asking. You know? And the man talk about so the man mislead the people. Sure, sometimes you me tell you say man might weapon the farm against Jamaica, you know, man. Man, you continuously want the people stupid, bro. And now listen to good, solid freaking reasoning, brother. Solid question the youth asks.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I need a protection.
Senator Morgan,
the second
I'm going to
matter
ask you just to allow Senator Ferguson to finish here, please.
Thank you. The second matter that I need clarity on, Mr. President, is governance. Right? So once the fiscal rules are suspended, we're going to be removing the legal restraints that have held us in place for all these years. Right? And it's going to move the government away from being compelled to be disciplined to being disciplined on their own volition. In the absence of these restraints, Mr. President, I believe governance becomes the only safeguard that we have in protecting the public purse. At the same time, when the fiscal rules are relaxed, Jamaica is going to be spending at a level and scale that we've never attempted to before to deal with this recovery. It's not ordinary capital expenditure.
Right.
It's a countrywide reconstruction program that's going to be demanding new infrastructure, stronger standards, the delivery of projects that are technically complex. Right? Because of this, governance cannot be treated as an afterthought, Mr. President. The framework has to be intentional, independent, and equipped with the requisite expertise needed to oversee this. Statements of intent are not enough, because we are going down a road. We need to know quickly how decisions are going to be made, how money is going to be spent, and how progress is going to be reported. The government has announced the creation of a National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. It's a dedicated institution to manage the post-Melissa recovery. And the acknowledgement of that is welcome. I think it reflects an understanding that we're not in normal times and no normal structure of government can deal with an unprecedented reconstruction effort. But the existence of the authority alone is not by itself a protection. Authorities can be powerful in law, yet weak in practice.
Exactly.
And unless they are built with clear accountability, that will be almost a fait accompli.
Yes, it's not going to be effective.
As we suspend the fiscal rules, as we increase expenditure, and as we access unprecedented resources, the authority has to be designed with strong and credible safeguards. Right?
Yo, my boy,
I'm repeating the opposition's call for a governance framework that is independent, that is inclusive, and that is transparent. It's not a political request. It's about necessary protections when billions of dollars will be moving rapidly into projects that we haven't seen before. When legal guardrails are temporarily lifted, when flexibility is granted, accountability becomes very important.
Very.
Mr. President, the success of Jamaica's recovery will not only be measured in roads, it won't be measured in the roads that we rebuild or the bridges that we fortify. It will be measured in the strength of our institutions and whether the peoples whose lives have been disrupted can trust the system that is spending on their behalf. If we build stronger infrastructure, we also need to build stronger governance. Right? And that's the standard that our people deserve.
Yes.
In wrapping up,
wrap up, my boss.
Mr. President, the third matter concerns not only how we recover, but how we grow after the recovery. Reconstruction should not bring Jamaica back to where it was before. It needs to bring us to a stronger position, a more competitive position, right? And it will require a level of investment and economic participation unlike what we've seen before. As I mentioned earlier, we haven't even started to scratch the surface. And as we seek external support, we need to recognize as well that Jamaica already has a significant pool of capital at home. Our banks, our securities firms, our pension funds, insurance companies, they sit at the core of our savings and investment base. Yet, the ability of these entities to support the kind of large-scale development that is on the horizon remains constrained by regulatory philosophies and operating assumptions, many of which are vestiges of the past. They limit how effectively these institutions can participate in the real economy and how capital can be mobilized for productive use. We cannot expect a modern, resilient economy to emerge when the rules that we have set for ourselves restrain capital from participating in the growth that we want to see. Around the world, financial sector regulators have become constructive. They've started to encourage responsible participation in what is effectively national development. It's not about recklessness. It's about setting thoughtful, risk-aware frameworks that allow for the mobilization of domestic capital, while maintaining prudence, maintaining transparency and stability. Jamaica must not remain an outlier, and we can't afford to, given where we are and what we need to do. Right? Asking our institutions to support growth while designing rules that hamstring them is counterintuitive and counterproductive. Sure. Right? Mr. President, this period of rebuilding, I think, presents an opportunity for us to create targeted incentives that encourage the participation of financial institutions and capital into productive activity, especially at this time into projects that are linked to the reconstruction and resilience efforts of our nation. If we're serious about building back better, then we must also figure out how we can facilitate the financing of this from our own local stock. As we borrow externally, we must in parallel unlock Jamaican capital to participate in the rebuilding of our economy. This means, among other things, Mr. President, modernizing our regulations and looking at how we can bring Jamaica into the 21st century. It's not about taking greater risks with our financial system. It's about taking greater responsibility about how we allocate our own capital here at home. Yes. Right? Jamaica's reconstruction can't only be financed from abroad. Right? And there will be a lot of value created from the reconstruction efforts. We need to retain some of that here. In closing, Mr. President, we began by acknowledging what has taken us here and how the fiscal rules work.
Now, in terms of having that value stay here, meaning we can't go end up at hire people from overseas if we can do all of these construction and that money goes overseas. So the same money where we have borrowed for build back, it now stay in Jamaica, and then we have to go pay back interest on it. That now go fly. That money there, enough of that money there, we need to go in our pocket of Jamaican contractors, skilled men, everybody we have to do with building. And if we make sure say workforce out here, the builders them out here, turn millionaire, multi-millionaire off of this big recovery project. Straight up. And if them not do that, them not build the country. Them not ready. That the man I say, listen good.
Who were born and the sacrifice associated with same and the discipline that it has created. Today's suspension is not a rejection of that discipline. It's a response to an unprecedented need, which can't be denied. But we have to look at the context. We have to look at the fact that suspending the fiscal rules and going down an uncharted territory has its risks. and it has to be managed very carefully. We have to figure how we fill out the funding associated with the recovery efforts. We have to figure out how we unlock our own capital here, and we have to remember that the confluence of events and the various things that we have to manage need to be done with the people of Jamaica at the center. I thank you, Mr. President.
Yo, me say, that brother there, you must forget a big up, but me have to move fast. Hold on there. This is what I want to touch upon real quick.
As it relates to a demonstration.
No light, no water, no hospital, no passport. The government about those and nothing coming here. Yes, those and no electricity. No electricity. Let me see how them go get current. Everybody will work up here. Well, let's go to the community go work. And government pay them rich and curry. Nobody in here. Nobody died. No pay for rich and curry up here. Everybody will work and government pay them. Everybody will work up here. Government pay them. Because they're not rich and curry. Rich and curry don't pay no extra. They have been coming here for a long while. Years they come here, go camp out in our community, and the children them love it. Let's go on the road.
People them up on Maroon Town a protest because Curry not take the soldier them in a compound. Them no wise, you know. Them no wise. We just watch you are going. Them no wise. Them no wise. So now you have people who are maroon and say, "Oh no, see a style thing. 1 month and 2 days after Melissa him come here, and una go make him separate we and divide we. Hey, that one there one devil in. Say people ain't separated now about Curry decision. Some people are say yes and some people are say no. Man, I devil man. Anyway, man go a pipe for
So we need roof on our head. Look, everybody I don't care to talk to we need
What a disappointment. The disappointment. You know,
all right.
Them Marina come like so they don't even know all their history. It's sad, you know. It's sad, you know. Them Marina live in a song. Why I don't know. 80 years of fighting the enemy and the slave master and look on them. No. They come like they don't know their history. Why rough here, man? I'm sorry for Chief Curry, you know.
So our newsroom, we were called as it relates to a demonstration that's taking place here in a compound town. Several calls to the newsroom and we have responded. And
so not only did the people then protest. I wonder if my boy they have one plant in the can him skill like that, you know, can I see people when they're desperate they can get buyout, you know. I wonder if you have one plant down there. I wonder if it will go on Miss Dallas. I wonder if him have one plant down there. When you say yo, you will go on, organize the people and rise up against Curry. Hey, man, I tell you, man.
Came, and as you would see in the footage, protest taking place here. Maroon citizens of a compound, they have a story, some information that they want to get out. So we're talking to a few of the citizens. Sir, am I correct in referring to you as a citizen? Yes, you are. You're very correct. A concerned citizen of a compound. Okay. All right. Our newsroom at BOJ TV, we have been receiving several calls. Tell me what's the problem here. Well, firstly, I must commend the Prime Minister and coming forward to see the effect of Melissa in a compound town. Secondly, now, As you can see, my placard says look forward to see the effect of Melissa in Akompong town. Second, yes, you are. You're very correct. A concerned citizen of Akompong. Okay, all right. Our newsroom at BOJ TV, we have been receiving several calls. Tell me what's the problem here. Well, firstly, I must commend the Prime Minister and coming forward to see the effect of Melissa in Akompong town.
You must commend him. Oh my God, hey, them people are real sell out to the man. Hey, after 1 month and 2 days, you must commend him. Bomba.
Secondly, now, as you can see, my placard says the decision is not to accept the government help is Richard's Curry, not ours. So our greatest concern is because of the turn down of the military force in Akompong regarding to putting on roof on the people of Akompong house. Yes, it's a great what I should say, disappointment, because we were looking forward to see the help coming in from both sides of entity, both the chief in here and the Prime Minister of Jamaica with the military. And with the turn down, it's very disappointing, and we can't afford that because the people of Akompong need help, and we need help urgent because there are houses without roof, there are children who are traumatized even by hearing the sound of the rainfall and the roof without a sturdy covering. All right. So let's just put some context to what's happening so viewers can.
Maybe me I think about it in Maroon in a different way. Me think about Maroon, I think about people resilient, resourceful, skillful. You understand? Know-how. You're supposed to have skillful people over there who can build house and then sit there. You know them way there? So if you look to outside help to rebuild the community, outside of you getting material, me don't know. Is skill not there? Like, me don't even understand what take place right now. This will lick me for 6. Me I wonder if somebody really get buy out, brother. Me not tell
viewers can understand what's happening. So recently, persons will have seen images, footage, news stories of the visit of the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, visiting Maroon Town. I think he was accompanied by Minister Grange, Minister Charles, and other officers of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. And we saw where the chief and himself were touring with citizens, and a number of pledges were made, including the Prime Minister's offer to ask the to get the JDF to assist with the rebuilding of homes. Subsequent to that, the chief, Richard Curry, we saw a statement put out that we got online as well, indicating that it was the decision of the council. I think it was. I stand corrected, but he indicated that he was not going to offer. Very respectful statement, I must say, the video that I saw. But at the end of it, he was indicating that he was not going to accept the offer from the Prime Minister as it relates to the JDF coming into the area. So now you're here today. So I'm just trying to bring some context so viewers can understand what you're having. So since the issuing of that statement of the chief now, you guys have come out now and you're saying that you actually want the JDF to come in and assist, and that is why you're here today. You want to just expand a little more in terms of what you have been saying? Definitely, because when you think of it, he mentioned that he sit with his council and he made a decision. But think about it. Is the council's voices enough? What about the residents?
What do you mean if the council voice enough? You ever hear about executive decision in one crisis taken by a leader? Andrew Holness does it all the time. So you don't have to agree with the decision, but the man is the elected representative. You understand what I say? But are you democratic right still if you go on and race still? But me I go watch something carefully because this look like one sellout thing to me still. Me not tell no lie. Straight up. Living in Akompong. What about the people's voices? What about the people who are... you make you look like a voice. You must speak for everybody. You must speak for yourself and some people. One of the people when I want a soldier out there. And that, it might make it sound like say, him are the voice of the people, everybody. Yo, hey, man, I tell you, say, man, a real crisis with you, man. Man, cover up your friend. Facing damage, losses, and all those kind of stuff. What about their voice? Is there not a voice to be heard? So they cannot make the decision for everybody. So what you're saying, you would have wanted the chief and
the different persons of position in his hierarchy to have like a community meeting, consult with the people, discuss it as a community, and then a general statement is made. That is what you would have preferred. I wouldn't say he didn't have a meeting, you know, but at the end of the day, you didn't stand and hear the people's views. Okay, so since the Prime Minister left, there was a community meeting to discuss the matter, and yes, there was a community meeting, but it's only to let us know that he's gonna be refusing the JDF, the Prime Minister's offer. It wasn't shown about to hear the views of if people want them to come, and that is what people standing for.
Okay, so citizens didn't give their take on the matter and things like that.
No, he should have expanded further with the people before putting out the video.
Unless the people miss it, I want to hear the Prime Minister. I want to listen to this.
But here is the problem now, Madam Speaker. How do we borrow? If it were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we would not be able to approach the IFI. We wouldn't even be able to approach the international community. But
Raleigh, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we couldn't approach the international community. 20 years ago was what? 2005. What was Jamaica's economic position 20 years ago, Raleigh?
20 years ago, we could get money to borrow from the international community. At that time, we weren't even borrowing from the IMF because we paid off the IMF. We never went back to the IMF until 2010, when Andrew Holness was the leader of government business in the House of Representatives in the Bruce Golding government. And they never even know which agreement, but they take a full agreement. And couldn't.
So people don't hear that. The man said 20 years ago, they couldn't even get no loan from the IMF. But 20 years ago, we don't pay off the IMF and PJ tell them, bye. No more borrowing. So you mean you couldn't get no loan from them? At that the time you can't get loan. Because you're sure so you can pay them off. And you're the boss. Everywhere me go. Whether it's a place where I buy things from, you know, nothing specific. But if me show a credit level where me take things and then me pay back on time, you know what that mean? Me can get more credit. That's a common sense. So when you go in a parliament or there and off him out a lie matter like many other things, so him say, he man lie. He lie name, you know? In dangerous. Anyway, man, right, so ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to think in the comment section. Me I go follow this up when we reach home. Yeah, probably about 11 or 12 o'clock, one of them time there. Big up on yourself, I'm out. Someone a wicked young one.